You know that feeling when you just know how a game's going to go before it even starts? That feeling in your gut, like, yeah, we're just not winning this one. That was me all week. Wolves away, a team that have been pretty awful this season, up there as relegation favourites, and yet not once, not for a single second, did I genuinely think that we were going to win. And the worst part was right. And what makes it worse is that 1-1 draw might honestly be the most Brighton performance of all time. But before I break down what went wrong and what I think is genuinely kind of concerning about Brighton right now, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel. So if you enjoy the video, please hit that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications. It really helps out massively. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, on paper, a draw away in the Premier League isn't the end of the world. It's a point on the road, and that's never a bad thing. But it's the manner of it, the way that we played, the lack of anything, the complete absence of creativity. That's what's so frustrating, especially against a side that, I mean, everyone's good in the Premier League, but it's especially against the side that we should just really be beating if we want to be challenging for Europe. And if you look at the actual talent that we had on the pitch, the players available, the technical ability, the pace, the attacking options, it makes no sense how we look so flat, and that's where the cracks are starting to show. And I say that because it wasn't just a one-off day. This is starting to look like pretty much a pattern, and if we don't address it soon, it could define our season, even though I feel like it already quite well describes and sums up Brighton as a club over the last couple of years. If you watch that game, or if you watch Brighton in general, you'll know what I mean. Wolves were there for the taking. They were poor. Like, they were genuinely poor. Yet we made them look alright. The game had no real spark. We had more possession, more technically gifted players, blah blah blah. But what did we do with it? Nothing. It was just slow. The tactical plan seems to be get the ball to Minte and pray he does something, or lump across into the box and watch as nobody challenges it and it's headed away. There didn't seem to be much tactical anything today, and whether that's the players failing to execute on the plan or if it was just Fabian had got it all wrong, I don't know. But it begs the question of how are we so incredibly consistent at being inconsistent? Our only wins this season are against Chelsea and Man City, whilst we've dropped points against Fulham, Everton, Bournemouth, Tottenham and now Wolves. It is literally the most Brighton run of form I've ever seen, but why is that? How come when you are up against two of the best sides in the league, two of the teams that most clubs would be terrified to face, that's when we rise to the occasion. We play brave, we play expressive football, and we look like a proper European footballing side. And then the next week, we play Wolves, a team yet not to have picked up a win this season, and we look like we've forgotten how to play the sport entirely. It's baffling. And this is where the frustration really kicks in, because like I said, this wasn't a one-off. This wasn't just, oh, it was a bad day, we're not usually like this. It's been like this for years, really. Under Graham Potter, it was we create loads, but we can't finish the chances. Under De Zerbi, it was if a team that's lower down in the league sits back and plays a low block, we can't really create anything. And under Hurzeler, well, both. But let's talk about this Wolves game specifically, because it's such a perfect example of everything Brighton get wrong against the so-called lesser sides. We had the majority of possession, we looked comfortable in spells, but you never really felt like we were going to score, other than, I mean, obviously we did score in the end, but there was no spark, there was no rhythm, there was not really any structure in the final third. It was like watching a team of talented players who have all been told, just go out there and figure it out yourself. And when your tactical plan, like us, boils down to get it wide to Minte and hopes he beats three men, or just throw across into the box and hope that it's not a Wolves head that heads it away, it's not really a system, it's just survival. It's like Brighton are playing within themselves. I don't want to pile on to individual performances, but today, Jorginho Ruta, who is one of, if not my favourite player, just didn't look up for it. He got the ball and has the talent to beat his man, maybe even another one, but then there's nothing. It's just running into a wall and turning over possession. There was nice football and nice individual moments, but they had no real end product or threat. Welbeck had flashes this season. I mean, the Chelsea cameo was great, but he's just not consistent enough to be a reliable starter each week. Jorginho, like I said, he's technically gifted. He's just not a natural striker, and he doesn't look like he's being optimized when he's playing in the number 9. And then the two young Greek lads, they're talented, they're promising, and I'm sure they'll turn out to be good signings, but apparently they're not ready yet, according to Fabian. So what do we do? Where's the short-term solution? Because if Fabian doesn't trust the new lads yet, Welbeck's form keeps dipping, we're stuck in a bit of a circle of just nothing. We've got the creativity around the striker. We've got Gruda, Minte, Matoma to name a few, but no one who is really consistently finishing the moves off. That's why every attack almost feels like a half chance. That's why we dominate the ball, but never really the scoreboard, and we can look like a good team at times, but not really much to show for it. And if we talk about the goal that we conceded, because that kind of sums up everything wrong with our mentality in games like this. It wasn't Wolves outplaying us. It wasn't some world-class finish. It was just sloppy. A really poor defensive header from Welbeck straight back into the middle of the box. Literally rule number 1 of defending, and bang, it's been rocketed against a great save from Verbruggen and has hit his back and it's gone in. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Verbruggen, it could have been 2 or 3 down before we even really got back into it. He made some big saves, stayed composed and commanded this area pretty well. So if anybody is blaming him for that goal, just stop. That's not on him. That was on the players in front of him. It was a great initial save and incredibly unlucky to end up in the back of the net. But regardless, it did. And like I was saying, this sums up what has been going on at Brighton, really. It's just individual errors in a moment, and then it gets punished and they're killing us. You can't talk about being a European mainstay one week and then lose focus on the sheer basics of football the next. With that being said, of course, we did come back into the game through Van Hecke, and this is where I would give credit where credit is due, because the substitutions did make an impact. Hurzeler bringing on De Kuyper and Simas actually worked. They were involved in the equaliser, and Van Hecke's header was quality. But how many times do we need to go a goal down and just leave it late to get back into the game before piling onto the pressure in added time? It's such an unsustainable way of winning a football match, and therefore falls into the trap of us being incredibly inconsistent. And we've been saying that consistency is the issue for years now, and it wasn't just Fabian. It was both a De Zerbi and a Potter issue. This inability to play through stubborn low block sides, we've been saying it for years, but it's starting to feel like there could potentially be more to it than that. So let's talk about that word that I've already said about 1,000 times: consistency. Every season we say the same thing. Even Fabian Hürzeler himself has mentioned that we are missing consistency, and it's absolutely right. But we've been saying it for years, and it's just not changing. It's really easier said than done to fix. So if we all know that consistency is the issue, why hasn't it changed? Why does it feel like Brighton can outplay Manchester City one week and then look like we could play for hours without scoring against Wolves? So you have to ask the question, is it a tactical thing? Is it a mindset thing? Is it both? Because there's only so many times you can say the players weren't at it or we lost because of one individual mistake. It's just not sustainable. It's what are we going to do about it? It feels like we go into these games against the Wolves with no clear idea about how to attack a team that sits back. Like, we rely on instinct and individual moments so much instead of patterns, preparation, and being the better side. And that's potentially a way that Fabian Hürzeler could evolve. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not Hürzeler out. I still think he's the right man long term. But, and it's a big but, he really doesn't help himself when these type of performances keep happening. Because here's the thing, we all believe in the project. Well, our sane portion of the fan base believes in the project. We all understand that this is a long-term build. But when you're watching these games and performances like this, you can see why the loud minority online start to lose their patience. And realistically, here's the paradox. We are good enough to beat anyone in this league. We've proven it time and time again, but we're also capable of looking like we have no footballing ability or team cohesion at all, in just absolutely offer nothing in front of goal the weekend after. I think our main issue is that we really seem to rely on individual moments of brilliance, because we've got a great squad, and on any given match day, in order to get over the line, we seem to be hoping that someone can do something magic. And maybe that's why we end up getting these results against bigger teams, because the players think that it means more and they have more added personal incentive to turn up, to put that extra bit of fight and get it over the line, because maybe they can use it as a stepping stone to make their big move in the future. Because as much as a Brighton fan, I would love them all to stay forever at the club, they've all got bigger ambitions than this. They all want to play on the biggest possible stages. So when they get onto that stage, is that the reason why we start having good performances against them, but because it's against the Wolves, they don't really care as much? I don't know. And let's be honest, that game against Wolves was boring. Like, very boring. From a side that's usually pretty exciting to watch, and I would say relatively respected as a good footballing side, we just looked blunt going forwards, even with the options that we have in the squad. How can a team that's built its entire identity around possession and fluid movement create so little? And it's always going to be harder against a team like Wolves, who, especially after going 1-0 up, will sit back and have a majority of their players crowding the box to defend the lead. But you would expect a team like Brighton, or anybody else at the level we want to be at, to find a way through. And sure, we did eventually get that equaliser, but for me, it really doesn't change that much. Even though a point on the road in the Premier League is never a bad thing, we easily could have walked away from that with nothing, and we would potentially have deserved to do so. But you can't help but feel disappointed with what you're seeing in front of you. I don't want to sound overly negative, because yes, we did get a point and it could be way worse, but at what point do we stop saying, well, at least it's a point, and start asking, why aren't we improving? Where is this intensity that Hurzeler speaks about? Where's the control? Where's the spark? Where's the plan? Because we don't really look like we have one. It looks like there's a group of brilliant players improvising their way through games, and that's not good enough for a club with European ambitions. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not Hurzeler out, not even close. I still think he is the right man long term, but he really isn't helping himself with performances like these, because fans are patient until they're not. And when the reactionary Twitter fans get their hands on an agenda, they can create quite the echo chamber of negativity. But all we want as fans is a team to look like it knows what it's doing, to play good football and win football matches. And right now, it just feels like we're waiting for one of our talented lads to pull a rabbit out of a hat. And we're almost that famous saying of Moments FC. Let's hope that when we're back after this international break, we see a bit more than just these moments, because the squad is far too good to be this average. We have the likes of Jorginho Ruta, Karuma Toma, Brian Gruder, Ferdi Kadioglu, Yankuba Minte, just to name some of the players. We've got the new 2 Greek lads, and we are really not short of creativity going forwards. It just seems as though we don't know how to use them properly, and we don't have that striker to put the ball in the back of the net. I'm a big Danny Welbeck fan, but is he really... Has he still got it in the big 2025? I don't know if you can be relying on him week in, week out. It kind of appears that, like, especially last weekend or this weekend, like, there isn't much creativity in the team, despite the fact we have so much creativity in the team, if that makes any sense. Maybe that's just my own personal opinion, but I think it could be very worrying going forwards. Anyway, that's my take on the problems with Brighton and Hove Albion right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you still believe in Fabian Hürzeler. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel out massively, as like I said earlier, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel. And with that, fade to black.